Everybody. So thank you for joining me this evening. I am so happy you're following along. And gosh, it is Thursday already, and where has the week gone? So, um, gosh, I, I I know sometimes that some weeks seem to drag on longer than others. This week has seemed to just blow past me. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming along and joining me on the show. So let's get the particulars, guys, out of the way. So if this is your first time following us on the show, uh, you can catch us live streaming across multiple platforms. So if you're watching us, you can watch us on our YouTube channel, and that is at Made from Scratch Broadcast there. If you want to go there, that is at www.youtube.com/the letter C/ Made from Scratch Broadcast. Do us a favor, if you go to YouTube and you're watching live, drop it down in the comments that you are watching live. We will interact with them as we go along in the show. And do us another favor, hit the like and subscribe button. Also, hit the bell to get the notifications and let you know whenever we do go live or whenever we do drop new content. So thank you so much, guys, if you're watching on YouTube. Then we're also streaming live via our Facebook page, and that is at Made from Scratch Broadcast as well. Same deal, guys. If you're there, hit the thumbs up, the like, and it'll let you know whenever we do go live, and you'll get notifications whenever I do create a new live show, which I do every day, Monday through Friday. So and then on top of that, we stream live on Twitter. So you can check us out on Twitter, and that is at MFSB Live on Twitter. And we stream there via Periscope. So again, guys, if you're watching there, drop it down in the comments. Let us know that you're watching, and we will react to your comments, and we can pull them up on screen and share them with just about everybody. So thank you guys so much there. And then on top of that, we are streaming on LinkedIn. So, guys, if you're watching on LinkedIn Live, you can follow me via my my profile page at Gabriel E. Leal on LinkedIn. Send a connection with me. I would love to connect with new people all the time. And, again, it's always fun for me to do that. And then on top of that, guys, we do stream live to our website, and you can find us there at www.madefromscratchpodcast.com. You can check out our past episodes. You can check out, links to our podcast there. We do upload the podcast as well. And then on top of that, you can also see our live internet radio station. I'm building it up right now as we speak. So, hopefully that'll be, it's already up and running, but I would like to get it more refined and add a few more things to it, as far as like guest DJs, people creating their own shows, doing a live simulcasting, the live podcast, the live broadcast on there as well. So these are things that I'm working towards building right now. So guys, thank you so much for following along. I do appreciate it. I already got people following on LinkedIn. Matthew Perkins, my brother. Appreciate you so much, guys. Matt is awesome. I actually got invited to join a group called the Infinity Streamers. Awesome group of guys. Not just guys, people, individuals. There's women in there as well. We all, I think, share the same kind of commonality and goal and what we want to do there. So big things, big news coming with that pretty soon, guys. So stay tuned. As soon as we know, we'll let you guys know about it as well. So thank you, Matt. And then David Munford. Thank you, David, so much, man. I need to holler at you as well, David, my friend. So, guys, thank you so much for following along. Do appreciate the love, and just it's been awesome. So let me go ahead and now that I've got all the particulars of where we are on social media and that thing out of the way, let me get into tonight's guest. She's a keynote speaker, a people scientist, a visionary who partners with leaders, business, universities, communities to drive change, instill empowerment, and encourage in the way we lead and cultivate our human capital through inclusivity, culture, catalytic consciousness, actions, and leadership development. So she believes every human has a limitless potential to be and become their best versions when the constant epidemic of fear is shifted into courage and empowerment. So, she's got she does her own show, I believe, on Twitter as well, and I um, we kind of connected one night after one of my shows, and we had a really good, deep connection conversation. So I knew that as soon as we had that talk, at some point I was going to have her on the show, guys. So do me a big favor, and let's welcome to the show Mila DeChant.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Gabriel.
Hey, thank
How
you,
are
thank
you?
you. I am awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. First of all, I appreciate you taking a little time out of your schedule to come on here and having a conversation with me. So, thank you so much. I'm always honored and humbled that I get the type of people and the quality of guests to come onto the show. So, um, thank you again for just coming on and saying that what we got going on, and the fact that we had a good conversation, and we came up with the conclusion that we both needed to be on each other's show.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
kind of tell me, before we start going into you, a little bit about the show that you do on. I believe you do two of them, as a matter of fact. One with the co-host and one by yourself. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about both of them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Mondays one is called Hardship. Hardship, as you can see in my sign, Hardship, the Now of Leadership and Us. It's a podcast that I do with my co-host, who is actually my friend. Hi, Van, who's actually a classmate of mine with Annalie Saponsky. So we met like 10 years ago in university. And I invited her to be a co-host because she's a political scientist, and I kind of like upgraded my my career from being a people scientist to a culture scientist now. So having the podcast from a cultural scientist perspective and her perspective as a political scientist, we explore ways and areas of culture, right? Because culture just does not happen at work. It happens in home, society, nation, in a larger sense. So that's why I have her on my podcast, and we invite guests to explore on a very deep dive level. So that's Mondays at 12 p.m. And then on Wednesdays, as a culture scientist, I do explore culture, like culture science explore, and I dig into different topics as well, and I invite guests. So most of my guests are actually from Twitter. So because it's like, it's so fantastic. So because I can really have a great conversation with them. And I love my community, all the people on Twitter, because it's like, even if they disagree in a very polite manner, and we still engage in a dialogue. So that's what I love the Twitter community. And that's why I do 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then I do another live chat, but it's not video, it's like tweeting. And I put up 10 questions and we engage in a dialogue. I absolutely love exploring different facets of a culture, what brings people together, and what makes us grow as people, and really changing that laggard ways of leadership into hardship. Like, it's the now of leadership. It's not future. It's not let it wait. It's bloody now.
Yeah. So, and again, you're out there, you're creating content, you're reaching out to people, you're building communities, you're sharing, which is what I love about being able to do this every day, is getting to be part of this community of people who have, who I like to find have a like-minded persona like me. They have that same kind of, they have that same kind of fire and passion for being able to go out there and want to help and create and be a part of making everything around us a better environment and in a better world. So I commend you for doing that, because again, not everybody who has the opportunity to do this, because everybody does, but they don't, because it's either something that you talk about a lot, fear,
Right.
or there's an intimidation factor about, say, doing the technological part. I know people who go out and speak who go out and they have workshops, and they connect with people person to person, but yet you try to put the camera in front of them or something like that, and they get tense. They don't know. They just it doesn't translate so far. So I think you can coach people up into learning how to do this and learning how to talk into a camera, hold presence, and share your message, because I think there's a lot of great people out there who want to do this. One of the guys that's watching right now, David Munford, I've had him on the show. He wants to go out there and start learning how to do this. So that's one of the things we talked about. Get your message out there. People will follow along, and people will find you, whether or not you're on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever your platform is. If your message is good and it resonates, people will be drawn to you. So, I again, somebody that I was drawn to kind of led me to you. So, Andrea Sanchez, who I have on the show, she's awesome.
She's fantabulous. I'm going to use the word fantabulous. Fantastic plus fabulous.
Yes. So we actually met through a live show that Adam Posner was doing on LinkedIn, and she kind of liked my message. She reached out to me, and then we had a conversation. And then one day I jumped on one of her Zoom things that she does, her Dare to Be Zoom, and then she came on my show, and we've had a good conversation, and we've had a good connection ever since. So I believe that's where you saw me, and you reached out to me, which is awesome. I think that was like the first time somebody's actually said, "Hey, I want to call and reach you, talk to you about this." And I said, "Okay, cool."
And we texted each other. It's like we exchanged numbers on Twitter, and I was like calling you.
So yeah, and that's one of the things that I, as a live streamer, I love doing this. So that's where me being out doing my passion, and also including the message that I love to share, and the things that I hope that people find interesting, I get to come on here and do every single day. Now, everybody can't do that. That's a tough schedule to do, but those that do it, man, hats off, because I know how much work you do into even it doing once or twice a week. That's a lot for some people. It's a lot of work to go into there and then create a community and to be really consistent about it. So I love that you have that real connection with your following and with your community on Twitter. And so let's talk about you and your journey. So one of the things that I found interesting when we had conversated, and then one of the things that you had talked about with me, and then you shared with me this. You had been studying about culture and leadership since globally since you were 15 years old. So you've been in this a while, and you have a lot invested in it. So kind of tell me about your journey that's kind of led you to start your own company and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I've always I was always in the journey, like the journey of culture, right? And I've lived in different parts of the world, and my parents were always they were always the catalyst to telling me or telling my siblings to learn about a culture. When they talk about culture, it's not just the practices, the behavior, but the people, right? Why do they practice something? What are the traditions? It was always about, learning about something. So, I had the humble opportunity of living in different parts of the world, and that made me fall in love with people from different parts of the world, things that they do, the things that they say, from individualistic cultures to collective cultures, how they operated, how they behaved, and the kind of impacts that they brought to each other, let it be good or bad. So I was always fascinated with that, and I've always immersed in that. But throughout my journey, my background is in engineering, and I was an educator. But whatever I did, I always came back to okay, how do we create a culture? How do you create an environment where we can lead from the heart, right? And then I always went back to like, okay, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, but I always brought that element into everything that I did, despite whichever career that I was immersed in. And then when I transitioned, like I moved in different parts of the world, and then now I live in the United States. It's been like 16 to 17 years. And I decided to like, you know what? I want to learn about human conditioning. I want to learn all about the psychology aspect of it. So I went back to school in 2011 and I learned about human conditioning, the cross-cultural communication from a perspective of American studies. So which was so interesting, like British education system and American education system. So I was exposed to even different lenses of how different people view different people in different countries or different cultures.
Yeah.
And that was such a great journey for me to learn that and be exposed to that. And then after that, I fell into corporate career, right?
Yeah.
I fell into corporate career, and that was like a wake up call for me because I kept on like going into different parts, like from engineer to educator to entrepreneur to corporate person, and that was a huge wake up call for me because I experienced the level of toxicity in corporation. And the first 6 months was fantastic, and then when I moved to different teams, that's when I was like, oh, this is real shit. This is what like real shit
Yeah.
happened, right? I saw how people were minimized, dismissed. I saw privilege, power from a privileged stance. I saw situational power. I saw people using their power to oppress other people, to diminish someone's identity, to eliminate someone's voice. And that was happening to me. And it was a space of where individualism was erased. And it was always about you fit into here. The culture fit was really eliminated in the space that I was. If you do not fit into a very singular lens of what confidence is, a singular lens of what leaders should look like, should sound like, should execute like, then there's no place for you. And it's like, no, this is all utter bullshit. This is absolute rubbish. This is not what leadership should be like. And I quickly fell into that person where management or leaders were, like treating me like garbage. Whatever I had challenged them. Challenge is not in the way like, oh, you are shit. No, nothing of that sort. Challenge in the way like asking questions and ask them, why are we doing this when it does not make sense, right? And that was the first taste where this is not welcomed over here. This kind of questioning is not welcomed over here. People are hired to do exactly what managers or leaders want them to do. It's to feed the leader's ego. It's about what I say goes. You're hired to do what exactly I want you to do. Career progression is only possible if you do exactly what I tell you to do. Then you get a good performance review and all of this crap that goes behind the scene. I saw what was happening, not to me, but also to other people. And I quickly fell into this environment where I was told that I'm not good enough. I can't speak English. I'm a foreigner. I'm not a good public speaker. I'm not good to present all these ideas, and I'm not a good worker. I can't focus. All these lies, and when people tell lies, it becomes your reality, and those lies went on for 2.5 years. Whenever I asked a question, whenever I challenged something, it came in the form of retaliation. So my managers and my leaders retaliate in such a way that they kept on changing my job description. They kept on changing what I was supposed to do. Started taking away the projects that I was doing. Started dumping work on me. I was working 16 to 18-hour days, 7 days a week, and I fell into this whole depressive spiral that pushed me to really believe that I was not worthy. The kind of fear I experienced was not just from a lens of fight or flight mode, but it was on a paralysis mode that really dehumanized me, stripped my identity, stripped my voice. I could not even recognize the person whom I had become. And I remember standing on top of a building in 2018, believing those lies, it became my reality, and I was ready to jump off. I was ready to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I had the epiphany that I have to do something. This is not the Mila. This is not the Mila standing on top of a building. Mila does not give up. Mila is the kind of person who pushes forward, who questions, who brings solutions. That's when I was like, no, I'm walking away from this. And I started my culture science company. And my mission is to really bring the awareness of what leadership must become in the now, which is hardship, valuing our people from the core and not just having leaders, barking orders or saying, oh, yeah, I'm all about kindness and empathy, but not willing to make that change in the now and say, oh, it's the future of work. There's no future if we don't focus on the now. We need to think about the now, speak about the now, execute in the now. So here I am today.
Yeah, there you go. But hey, um, I think at some point in our lives when we do find that the depths of being in a really low spot,
Mhm.
and getting to the point where even think about doing something like committing suicide, I think for some of us we have to have those moments to find that one epiphany, to
Absolutely.
find that message. Now, sometimes some of us don't get past that point, um, you know,
Hmm.
but the ones that do, and they start turning things around and start seeing a different aspect to life, I think those are the people at some point who use those experiences to start turning into leaders, start building voices, start getting out there. Because then, there's some people that spend their whole lives and their whole careers and working in a corporate environment. And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that,
Mm-mm.
but it's kind of like having a chain on you for the whole. You might as well just put a ceiling over your head and said, "This is as far as you can go." Um, unless you're that person who just for some reason exceptionally thinks better than everybody else, and those people are very far and few between. They kind of keep you on that little bitty chain by giving you, like you said, performance reviews and a little bit of extra money here and a little bit of extra money here, keeping you tied just enough and tether you just enough to want to stay, so you don't get
Yeah.
where you don't want to go. Oh, if I leave this, I leave the confidence of having a regular check. And
Hmm.
they want you to not have that risk. They don't want you to take that risk. So um, one of the things that really interests me about what you've done as well is that you talk about fear, because again, to take that risk, to take that next step, to take that first leap into whatever you're meant to become, you have to get past the fear. So kind of tell me about what the the 3 degrees of fear are that you've actually done research on. So kind of walk us about into that as well, because I find it pretty interesting, because that's a wall that some people have still yet to break.
Right. So it took me a long journey, right? It took me 18 months to recover from that phase of fear, doubt, anger, of losing my identity. And I quickly found that for 2.5 kind of fear which was instilled into me was not just from one lens, but it was from three different lenses. So I was so curious to dig deep into what it was. As I was going through my healing, I was doing research. I was reaching out to different people, speaking with different people and gathering all this data, not just in the United States, but different parts of the world. So I traveled extensively last year, to different parts of the world, speaking with people. So the three degrees of fear, this is what I researched and came out with. The first degree of fear that we normally experience is from a lens of insecurities of the self. So this is where, this level of fear comes from insecurities. This is when we confuse and overwhelm ourselves by overthinking situations, right? Or prevent ourselves from taking actions from our past failures or from people's words, of the fear of what ifs. I call the what ifs, the unknown, right? The future. We do not know the future. So it kind of like bombards us. It comes as like a tsunami, all those doubts. So our anxiety takes control of us. So the what ifs can be, what if I'm not good enough? What if people say, I told you so? Or what if I do not have the knowledge? What if I do not have the experience? I'm not a good public speaker, to your point that you said some people do not even speak, go live, right? What if if people say bad things about me, right? It comes from a lens of insecurities where it's programmed, it's conditioned, what we are exposed to. It can be from schools, right? In schools, our professors can minimize us, our own family members can minimize us, our friends can minimize us, our colleagues, our managers, our bosses can minimize us. So all these comes from a lens of insecurities where those words are imposed onto us, right? So that's the first degree of fear. Then we go into the second degree of fear, which it comes from a lens of restriction. So this level of fear comes from a lens of restriction where it's not only of the self, right? It's not only restriction of the self, but it's just from our self-doubt, but restrictions imposed onto us by society, by schools, by work, families, communities. This can be caused by vicious and volatile situations where our rights might be compromised, right? To facilitate someone else's right, or our character is defamed if we stand up for ourselves, or have a voice, claim of our rights, right? This degree of fear creates a detrimental effect on on us through oppression. So it creates a culture of silence. It defames and scrutinizes our character. So, for example, like what happened to me, right? So, like my manager is like, "You're not good enough. I'm going to take away all these projects. I'm going to keep on changing your job description." So it kind of like scrutinizes you and then creates this culture of silence. Whatever you say, they write it in the form of, "Oh, you're not performing. You're not really producing whatever." So it creates this polarizing thing because your words become much more valued because of the power, the situational power. This happens in schools as well, right? It happens even in communities and nations. Lens of restriction. Let's talk about immigrants. When they come over here, their green card is not approved, right? So they live in the second degree of fear where they they live in silence, where it's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't speak up. If I speak up, my approval for green card will not be approved, right? So everything this falls under the second degree of fear where there are restrictions and causes this silence and morphs you as a person. It eliminates your voice. So that's the second degree of fear. And then we go into the third degree, which becomes more detrimental, and it is from a lens of dehumanization. This level of fear comes from the lens of dehumanization. I say this is compounded fear instilled onto us by others via their words, actions in the form of physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. This becomes the most detrimental degrees of fear that causes anxiety, depression, paralysis of the mind, and in some cases, suicide. So when someone dehumanizes you to such a point, right? It's like a character, it's like demonizing someone, right? Don't talk to them, like judging and stereotyping someone. This degree of fear is no longer the flight or fight mode. It becomes a paralysis mode where it dehumanizes us in so many ways, right? It crumbles our worth, it corrodes our identity, oppresses our voice, defames our character, erases our confidence. It creates a culture of silence. It displaces us from our environment. It isolates us. It creates tunnel vision where we are not able to think with clarity. We,
Yeah.
yeah, so it becomes like a huge rabbit dark hole where you just isolate yourself and you feel like, that's it, I'm done. I can't be myself. So those are the three degrees of fears, which is the first degree is like from a lens of insecurity, you can come out of it. The second lens is from a lens of restriction. But whatever you do, you feel like there's handcuffs, it's like shackling. The third degree is where it becomes so detrimental, where it can really discombobulate a person of their own individualism and really
Wow. And that's really, gosh. right as you were talking about all these things, right? Um, a few things popped into my head. Probably because I just happened to be watching a little bit of television before I came out. I usually don't watch it, but my wife had it on. And the last 2 days, they've had two scientists on talking about the things going on with, the situation involving COVID-19 and their scientific opinions about using the data that they have, making informed decisions. And yet people want to defame them. People are jumping on top of them. People are saying such terrible things because they're saying, "Oh, this guy was the head of vaccines for the government, vaccine development, I think, and he got let go, and he was just trying to talk about his piece today in Congress, and they were just jumping on him, telling him he was sour grapes, that he's everything that's this and that, and that he has nothing." Even somebody that actually works in the government here, um, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the chief's medical officer for the government. Again, he's just trying to state facts and everything, and yet they're defaming him or putting him down because, again, they are everything that you're describing is kind of like what these guys are probably having to think like. All I'm trying to do is just share what you're asking me to share, and yet here you are putting me down in a box, saying all these other things. Even one of the senators, was kind of snappy with him and kind of told him, "Well, you're not the final word on what's going on with everything here." And he kind of told him, "Well, I never said I was. I was just stating what you guys are asking me to state to you." So, I mean, it's that sort of thing, kind of like in the same thing in a corporate environment. If you don't tell your manager or your boss exactly what they want to hear, you're not a team player.
Right.
You're not helping the company grow. You have your own agenda. So it's so insane that people want to actually help, want to kind of say, I do express their individualism and their voice, and yet here they get ridiculed for it. That's insane.
It is, and this reminds me and senators should not be saying that, right? When you are a leader, and I look at this, when you are in a position of leadership, and I truly believe that everyone is a leader, right? You don't need a bloody title. You don't need to be a senator. You don't need to be a president. Anyone can be a leader if you have the right conscious mindset to lift someone, to enable people, not just people who are present now. Think about people who are yet to be born. So I feel like leadership is just not, oh, I have a title, I know more. And this reminds me of something. I wrote this today on Twitter. The difference between an expert who says, I'm an expert, I know, and someone who says, I have the expertise and I'm always willing to learn. Right? The difference is one becomes stagnant and uses expert to shut down dialogues and opportunities to learn. Mm-hmm. Whilst the other who says, I have the expertise and I'm always willing to learn, that person is willing and who's consciously choosing to grow continuously regardless. That's the difference, right? Let it be leaders. And that's what we should become. We should not be shutting someone down. Come on, we are in a bloody crisis, right? Yes. In a crisis, everyone wants hope, right? I'm not saying that give false hope, but give reality, give reality, because reality loves company, not misery loves company. Yes. Reality loves company. So we need to give hope in such a way that we want different people's voices. What do you know? What's your research? What is it showing? Okay, let's bring that to the table. And that's what diversity is. When we have diverse voices, diverse opinions, and it's just not opinions like just coming out of nowhere. It's opinions from educated decisions, educated research, educated findings. That's when we can collectively come together and make ethical decisions and ethical progressions.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing about trying to find that middle ground whenever you're dealing with politics, because I don't like to delve too much in politics, because I think it's just a lot of he said, she said minutia that they can't. My side is always right, your side's always wrong, your side is evil, your side is good, all these things that they like to throw in between there. And I think it is about what you're saying, is it somewhere there's a middle ground that we all have to find in life. And we all at some point know that we can hear informed decisions, we can hear research, but if we don't have an open, objective mind about it, we're just going to make slanted decisions about everything that's going on, or whatever the situation that you're involved in. So I think when somebody is really and truly open about inclusion and diversity, and being non-judgmental about something, I think when you get enough of these people around, I think that's when most of the best decisions are made.
Yeah.
Because again, if you have your own agenda, you're going to be slanted about the information. The information is just that, the information. Information has no right or wrong. It's just how you interpret it and what your agenda is going to be with it, because that's what happens most of the time. I mean, the greatest book ever written that most people say is the Bible has so many different views of Christianity, because there's so many different opinions and how it's slanted. And you know what? The text doesn't change. The words that are in there don't change. It's us. It's the interpretation. So for me, that's why I say I try to stay away as much as I can from television. Not that I don't want to be informed, but I think if I just had the information, I would be able to know, okay, this is really what's going on. But everybody's information, depending on what television station you're watching or what channel you're watching, is slanted. It's
right. Yeah.
It's terrible sometimes. So go ahead.
Well, something that you mentioned really, sparked. You mentioned about the perspective, right? Whatever that someone is like consuming, when we consume a lot of information, it's definitely going to align with what our belief system is.
Yes.
Right? We will interpret it in such a way. If someone grew up in a country where like females do not have a dominant voice, then they're going to interpret it as, okay, I don't have a voice, only males have a voice, right? And if you grew up in a country where it's liberal, in a way that, when I say liberal, in a way where everyone has got equal voice, everyone, knows how to come and think, healthcare is not like what it is in the US. Healthcare, like in Europe, is very different. So they are going to perceive and assimilate it in a very different way because of what they have been exposed to, their belief system, right? It's going to align with the confirmation bias, what they are exposed to. If it aligns and it kind of like aligns with whatever beliefs, then it's going to like come into confirmation bias as well. So, and if you are of a very conservative background, right? Let's say if you're Republican, a very staunch Christian, nothing wrong with that. But it's going to align with whatever that you believe in. It's either aligns or rejects. So that's how people, that's how human beings are. But at the same time, we need to put, this is what I tell people, you need to put your religion, your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, extreme liberal or whatever it is, come together as humans. Come together as people with a beating heart. I have a beating heart. You have a beating heart. You consume oxygen to live. I consume oxygen to live. Let's come together and say, how can we come together and create the best environment for all of us, or for all our children? Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with politics, but that does not happen. But it needs to happen in such a way, because we are so segregated. The more segregated we are, happiness kind of like dissipates and fear kind of like congregates.
Yeah.
And fear can come in different ways, right? Like fear of the unknown. If like a lot of people, just someone got shot, right? Like two, like father and son shot African American guy because he was going for a jog in Atlanta. If you are afraid of someone who does not look like you and kind of like cover it up as, oh, we were afraid, take the time to get to know them. Don't just assume someone is running around the neighborhood, right? Don't just assume based on your limited knowledge. If you are afraid, challenge yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Where am I getting these thoughts? What did I see that is triggering these emotions? How can I tell myself I need to get over these emotions by getting to know the person? Right? There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with humanizing conflicts, humanizing fear. So, like, why can't people do that? That's what I want to know. Like, totally legitimate if you're afraid for your life, but at the same time, no one is holding a gun to your head.
No, and I think sometimes a lot of it, a lot of this, and this is rooted in just about a lot of people like who don't know or they have fears, is their insecurities.
Mhm.
So these are always glowing things when you're sitting there talking about fear and why people believe certain things, or they are introverts or extroverts, whatever you want to talk about, because we all, again, here we are, we're all made of the same DNA makeup. We all essentially have a heart. We all use oxygen to breathe. We all essentially have the same parts when it comes to anatomies.
Mhm.
Um, so we are all created the same. Yes, we do have unique aspects about every single one of us. But again, from birth, we're not taught about color. We're not taught about hate.
Mhm.
We're not taught about negativity. We're not taught about any of that. We know nothing of that in our lives as we grow. And as kids, the same thing. Their conscious does not even know about that. We have to actually grow and develop these traits.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it stems from insecurities that something that happened or something at some point in their lives gets introduced into their head, and then it becomes a permanent thing that sits there in their subconscious, and it triggers every time something, it activates that insecurity. So whatever it is, you touch it and you go, oh, this is it, this is why I hate
Mhm.
this. And those things like that, because I love to know about both sides of an argument, both sides of a conversation
Right.
before I make any kind of decision. And it's not that I'm indecisive. I just like to know what the actual facts are, and I always know that there's in between both sides somewhere lies the truth. Um,
Right.
we a lot of the times, Malcolm Gladwell did his whole book talking to strangers about what he calls defaulting to truth. So you can know something is a lie, and yet you can tell yourself in your mind that it's the truth. You'll go back. So if you say your best friend is cheating on her husband and you know it, you see all the facts, you see the evidence, but yet he's such a good guy, he's always been nice, he's a great father, and yet you won't say anything because again you default to truth, say no, there's got to be something else going on.
Mhm.
Your mind will always automatically kick it to you. It's the people who will simply just say what's on their mind at that point that are always the ones that are called, oh, you're a whistleblower. Oh, you're you're a tattletale. Oh, you're these things. Those are the words we use to disguise those kind of people. And because again, here we are. You can know that something is, one of his prime examples that he uses is Bernie Madoff. The guy who exposed him knew about him 18 months in advance and was trying to holler at the top of the hills what he was doing, stealing money from people, running a Ponzi scheme, and everything else. He even went to reporters. He went to people who were worked for the SEC and told him that these people, he would send them evidence, mathematical facts about what he was doing, and yet nobody wanted to believe it because again he was making so much money, and there was like no way he can be a criminal. No
Mhm.
way. They defaulted to truth. They went, okay, I don't believe it. You're who are you? You're just a small uh, person here. Why should I believe you? This guy's making
Right.
billions of dollars for people. He's throwing money into the economy. He's keeping households flowing. And then 18 months later, the house of cards crumbles, and now people look at him and think he's a genius. When at the time, but this time he's already been vilified. People are like,
Mhm.
who are you to? Who are we to believe you? Because that's our mindset. We go, oh no, if it's something we don't want to believe, even though we know it's truth, we still won't believe it.
I love that you said, he's a small person, right? And this, I'm going to highlight this. When this is such a mindset, it is inherently present in our community, regardless what culture. If
Yeah.
a person is small, right, and we immediately, and I'm going to use social media as an example. And today on Instagram, I posted something and I asked a question to my followers: do you retweet, reshare content because someone is an influencer, has that blue tick mark, 1 million followers, or does the content really resonate with you?
Yeah.
There's a difference. People are so seduced by someone who is an influencer, who are millionaires, who gets lots of PR time, media time. They are like, oh, they have got a title, they are on media, they must be right. And then we quickly dismiss someone who is like small business owners, right? Trying to present research, like scientists trying to
Yes.
present research. They're like, oh no, this is science. They don't have 1 million followers. They do not have a blue tick. They're not on publications. So they don't bring any value. We quickly dismiss that. What we see, it happens even in families, right? Like in
Yes.
families too. Age, you're younger, so you have got nothing to say. The oldest get the voice. So whatever happens on a micro level scale, let it be in families, happens in schools, happens in our community. So people are so seduced by the power. When I say the power, it's like titles, followers, media time, money, and people immediately, because it's programming, it's conditioning, it's like, oh,
Yes.
they must be right. So
Yes. Yes. And again, it's just so hard to fight that, because again, that's our mindset. This is one of the things that interests me whenever I see like documentaries about uh, mass murderers, right? When they go and talk to the family members, they're like shocked. They're like, I couldn't believe that my brother was a mass murderer. No
mhm,
way. Even though there were so many, and of course, all the red flags they see afterwards, of course, or hindsight. But again, it's hard to believe, to say, no way he could have been that person. No, because again, you don't want to believe it, even though everything in front of you is telling you this is the truth. And even sometimes, even when they have confessions and they say that what they've done, it's still hard to believe, because again,
mhm.
there's such a close connection or whatever it is. So again, believing the truth, and paying attention to everything that's going on, it's so hard to figure out what you want to believe,
Yeah.
because you're actually hearing quote unquote two truths coming from the two different sources. And I can understand why there's such a discord here in the United States, because again, we actually draw a line in the sand and say, you're supposed to believe this. If you believe this, then you're this. You're a Republican. If you believe this, you're a Democrat. So there is no uh, they don't want a middle ground. They don't want people
Yeah.
to um, want them to believe these things. So um, that's for me. That's always a hard thing to. So
Ben says people love sports.
I
Yes,
just
people.
I just saw.
That's so true, though. People do love sports, but No, you highlight a very great point, middle ground. I think, I think, can you imagine, can you like just envision a world where happiness is promoted as opposed to fear, right?
Yes.
Fear is promoted in a way of segregation, right? It's like me versus you, us versus them, they are of a different religion. We don't like Jews, we don't like Muslims, we don't like Hindus, we don't like Christians. Like, stop that narrative because it creates so much of fear, right? No matter which religion you practice, it's still God,
Yes.
right? It's like whichever political party that you belong to, you want the best for your political party,
Yes.
right?
You want the
And
best for your country, right? So hopefully that's what you would want whenever you're making your decision to vote for a candidate. You want the best of what you believe is for not just yourself, but for all society. And I think that's a problem we still all can't get past. No matter what religion, creed, race, you name it, we still are sometimes we're our worst enemies when it comes to, because again, I happiness, to me, you can find happiness in just about anything. I
Mhm.
love, um, and I use this as an example. Happiness can be the color blue, and what I mean by that is, if a kid is drawing with the crayon and he finds his blue crayon and he loves it so much and finds joy in it, guess what? He found joy in the color blue. So you can be happy. You can be happy in just about in. You can find the happiness. You can always find the positive aspect about all these things, even in politics, even
Mhm.
in even in this time of this pandemic we got going on. You can still find happiness in something that you're doing, even when you got all the odds stacked against you. Um, and everything feels like the world could be coming down on your shoulder, and yet if you have that smile on your face, people will be so marveled, and they go,
Mhm.
what are you doing? I mean, are you are you in Zen? Are you some sort of, no, it's just I know where my happiness comes from, and
Right.
it's not a dollar amount, it's not a job title, it's not, my happiness is what I find in here, right here. You see that?
Mhm.
That's your heart. What you said
Right.
right there. That's where it comes from. So
It
find it.
is.
You find it and you put it there, and you don't let nobody take it from you. Doesn't matter what happens around you. The environment that you live in will not control what makes you happy. And I think
Yeah.
to me, that's the whole point about um, what we're talking about, what we do every day, what you do, what I do, is to bring that to people, to find
Mhm.
that one little part, keep it there, and know that, again, once you find it, I don't you um, you'll never be able to take that from me.
Yeah.
I don't care what you tell me. I could find tomorrow. I could be told tomorrow I have stage 4 cancer, and yet I'll have a smile on my face because I know
Yeah.
life. I know what I've done. I know what I've been doing, and I know what I'm supposed to do until I'm no longer on this earth. So that's kind of going to lead me to my question that I ask all of my guests that come on my show, every single guest. So I always ask them, in the end, whenever your time is done, your book is written, what is the one thing that you want to be remembered for? What kind of legacy does Mila want to leave behind for the world?
For the world, man, that's a deep, deep, deep question. So the kind of heart print, I say heart print, not footprint, the kind of heart print that Mila wants to leave is for everyone to understand that there's a leader in you. You
Yes.
don't need a title. You don't need 1 million followers, a blue tick. You don't need anything to be a leader. You can impact one person in such a way to make their lives better, lift them up, enable them. give a listening ear. That's what hardship is about. That's what I want people to move from laggard ways of leadership into hardship. Practice leading from the heart, understanding other people's beating hearts. We need to eliminate fear. We need to eliminate this whole mentality of you can't, you're not enough, you're not ready yet. Eliminate all that narrative and say, hey, I'm here. What can I do? How can we move together? Not forward, not me walking in front of you or behind you. I want to walk by your side, beside you, where both of us are looking at whatever that we're looking together. That's the legacy
Yes.
that I want to leave, the heart print.
Awesome. That is a great answer. I love that. That, you know, that's gonna be the thing that, you know, going into life, that's when you're going past your life, that people will say, I remember Mila. I remember how open she was, her heart, how she was, how she shared, how she created these things, how she took fear out of what I believed in and made me believe in it. That's amazing. That's part of, again, that's what leaving a legacy behind, and leaving impact um, beyond your time on this earth. So awesome answer, Mina. Thank you. And just to shout out to everybody who's been following along on the show. Thank you, Benjamin Flavo, so much. Carol Campos, thank you. Bonnie Bishop Case, my Aunt Priscilla, thank you for watching. Kenneth Johnson, Isabella Canales, Chris Miller, Frank Anello, Gurdeep Mann, Carrie Calderon, thank you. Donald Lyles, of course, as always, and Jerry Hosen. And then on LinkedIn, I want to give a shout out to David Mumford, Adam Sinkus, thank you so much. Matthew Perkins, you guys are awesome. Thank you for following along and just commenting along with the show. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for following along and being part of the show. I do appreciate you, Mila, taking time out of your schedule and sharing this hour of. I've had a really great conversation. I love what we talked about today, and I think people will find it impactful. They'll find it to have value, and hopefully they'll take something from this and use it in their own lives and know that what we're sharing and what we're doing every day is a passion that we want to help create a better world and a better environment for everybody. So thank you so much. And then the guys, quick shout out to the Infinity Streamers guys. We got some big things going on. I just joined this group not too long ago. Really great group of live streamers who are trying to bring good to the world is what we're trying to do as a group. So thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate you taking the time. And before I get out of here, let me go ahead and just give a little bit of shout out to tomorrow's guest. Her name is Kat Daniels. She has her own podcast called The Teachable Soul. I love what she's been doing, and she recently launched her podcast not too long ago. And again, I get to bring on people who share great messages and get to be a part of making a community that hopefully people feel inspired, they feel hope, they feel change, they feel they can work past any kind of fear that they have. So thank you so much, Mila. I do appreciate you having the time, and sit tight. I will talk with you just a little bit after the show's over. Guys, thank you so much, guys. I will see you tomorrow night at 7:00. Same social media channels, guys. My guest will be Kat Daniels. I appreciate all of you so much. Take care. Be safe. I know things are opening up into the world, but we still have to be cautious. So wash your hands, practice good social distancing. Just take care of the world and take care of everybody else, and we'll get all past this as we've always done since the beginning of time. So thank you, folks. Love each and one of you, and I'll see you again tomorrow, Friday night, 7:00. So bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.